Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the podcast. It's really nice to have you here.
Good
We've got a
evening,
special.
Mike, Claude.
Nice to see you all. How you doing, Claude?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good, Claude.
We have the
Claude
great
is here
Claude
from
Hebert on here tonight, folks.
yes, from Michigan, and he is a legendary racer from the '60s.
Absolute legend out here.
Yes, and not only did he race and manage racing, he was involved with PR for Moto Ski and marketing for Moto Ski. Then he went on to Sno Jet and Kawasaki, and we're hoping to hear all about that tonight. So as you're viewing this, if you have questions about any of that you would like to ask him, please ask away in the comment section. We'll try to get all of those questions answered. And rather than hear me talk about it, do you want to kind of go back to the beginning, Claude, and give us kind of a quick lowdown of the chronology of things and how you got mixed up in all of this?
You're asking me to go a long ways back. For me, it all started back in 1962 when the Coburg JCs had a snowmobile race. And back then, the sleds that came to the race were the Big Iron Dog, Polaris's, Big Iron Dog, Artie Cats. And there was one lone Skidoo there, owned by a trapper in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. And this was on St. Patrick's Day. And we started the race. We had lots of snow. The race went on, and the snow softened up in the afternoon, and the Big Iron Dogs could not make the little hill going away from the course. And that little Skidoo went round and round and round, and that trapper from Pittsburgh won, of course. So the next year, I thought I wanted to go on snow, so I bought an L55 Polaris. But then we had a lot of snow that winter, and I realized that breaking trail with that L55 was not the greatest. As long as I took snowshoes and walk a trail, then I was good.
Yeah.
So the following year, I bought a Husky with the double track up front and sit on an iron board in the back. And that got me hooked. That was much better in snow, but it still wasn't the leader. And the Coburg JCs had a race, and a bunch of guys came up from Lancaster. And of course, we didn't know anything about snowmobile racing. So the Coburg JCs decided that every driver ought to weigh the same thing, same amount of weight. Mm-hmm. So they weighed everybody, and they would give them bags of sand to put on their sled to make them weigh equally.
Yeah.
They did that in Lancaster as well.
They did.
Yeah.
The guys from Lancaster were not very happy about hauling sand around with their sleds. And I put all my sand in that little sleigh in the back under the seat. Well, throwing extra weight didn't help that any. So the following year, I bought a Diablo Rouge. And again, it was the back of the pack sled. So that's when I went to Moto Ski in '65. Then I started racing with the guys. And, I could ride pretty good. What the hell? We had 8 horsepower or whatever we had back then. And we could go 25, 30 miles an hour. I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah.
And so we had a race that was sponsored by the JCs. And we had a guy come up from the Boston Globe to take photographs at the race. Well, I won that race, and it was cold. It was like 20 below zero. And the photographer from the Boston Globe, his camera kept freezing up. And he'd have to put it inside of his jacket to thaw it out. So I won the race, and I don't remember how many sleds were there, but it was a good amount. And so the Boston Globe gave me the moniker of the Look of Eagles. And that kind of stuck during the years because obviously they thought I had the look of eagles,
Yeah, that's a nice compliment.
Yeah.
There's a lot worse things they could call you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Late to the party or whatever.
Right.
So the next year, 66, that's when Hertz Motor Ski in Colbrook wanted me to race his sled because I was beating him in our races. and we started racing Hertz sleds. Then we would just race locally, Colebrook and stuff. But there was a race over in Maine, in I think it was Dixfield, Maine. And this leads to other stories. So in Dixfield, it was on a runway. They had a pylon up the front and a pylon way at the end of the runway. And the race was leave the track, 2 sleds, go to the end of the runway, turn around the pylon, come back. Well, there was one yellow sled alongside of me, and we took off in the track, but then the track was only 1 sled wide, and every time I tried to go by that yellow sled, he'd push me off into the loose snow. And he did that all the way down and back. And he comes across the finish line, and he throws his hands up in victory. He stops like right at the end of the finish line. And I was so pissed at that time. I came up behind him and banged him. The driver was David Pickard. And the sled was owned by our great Bruce Dunlap's father's sled.
Max.
Max came running out there. He said, "What in the world did you do that for?" I said, "Who in the world stops on the finish line with a sled behind them?"
Yeah, true. Good point.
So that's when I met Bruce as well. And from then on, we became real good friends. Even to the point where every time Bruce and I would meet, which was in the later years, was years apart, when I went to the induction in Lancaster, and I saw Bruce coming into the hall, and I pointed at him and hollered at him, and he looks at me and he points at me, and he said, "Hey, did you ever pay me for the damage on my sled?"
That's funny. Well, this is a good opportunity to put up a shot. This is an image of the 2 of you
Yes.
with some other legendary racers.
Matter of fact, yeah, I raced with most of those guys at one time or another. And at some point in time, of course, Bruce graduated to bigger sleds. And so did Bobby Martin. And of course, Conrad always raced. I only ran into Conrad, I think, twice in Lewiston. And the guy next to me in the back row, I don't remember running into him on the track.
I was on the infield.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all very, very familiar faces.
And for the record, Bruce Dunham is the third one from the left sitting on the couch. You
Yes.
get the red shirt over the black shirt and the plaid pants.
Yeah.
And that's you in the middle in the back row.
Yeah, those are good friends from way in the past.
Yeah, it's a legendary group right there.
So
yeah, for sure.
Time goes on, and at that point, I was still racing for Hurt, but we were running into Rockwell Distributors motor skis on the track. And after beating their sleds, Bob Morrill, the president of Rockwell, approached me to see if I would go to work for him, and which I did, because the job entailed racing, number one, and being a salesman in New Hampshire and Vermont. So Rockwell had basically a 2-man team, 2-place trailer, and we'd go to wherever we needed sales. Because back in those days, basically in New England, we had yellow and we had orange sleds, and there was a few Polarises around. But a win on the weekend meant sales on Monday. And that was the big thing for Rockwell, that we had to promote sales, not necessarily winning at the big races, but going with to support the dealer.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So as time went on and Rockwell expanded their team, and during that same period of time, we needed to expand our sales force. I had a friend in Colebrook, New Hampshire, His name is Bruce Bryant. And I had known him for a number of years. He was also my local barber. And every week, whenever I went in for a haircut, we'd talk about racing because he had a sled and he liked to race. So Bob Morrow said, why don't you ask him if he'd like to race for us and be a salesman? So Bruce came on board with for sales and racing. And he's a big man.
He's as big
Bruce,
as Conrad, yeah.
Yeah, he carries a lot of weight.
Now, is
And
this
what
Bruce
was
here
good
from
about
back in the
Bruce
day?
right there, Bruce could outmaneuver a sled, with a weight, because he had the leverage for a 793 narrow stance motor ski. He had the weight to keep that thing down on the ground where I could not. And then shortly thereafter, we hired a good friend of mine from the past, was Dave Pickard, to come to work for us.
I've got images of him too. Let me find one.
One older one of Dave, yeah.
And then here's
Yeah, a
in the
lot of
later years.
snowmobile dealers will know Dave and Dave's name because, so he came to race for Rockwell, and it wasn't long that Timberland approached him to race for Timberland.
So he was in demand, it sounds like.
Yes. And after this story goes on a few years longer, and then I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but as time goes on and Rockwell is no longer Moto Ski distributor, Bruce Bryant and I both went to work for Artie Cat. And then a couple of years later, I went to work for Kawasaki. And I needed a sales rep in New England. Well, Dave came to work for us on the road in New England. He was also with Chaparral. He was with 2-3 different sleds, but he had a lot of dealers and a lot of dealer knowledge. And the guy, he had personality like galore. He was one of those guys that once you met him, you'd always remember Dave.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I don't want to get too far ahead in this story because too many little stories intertwined here.
Sure. And this is actually a good time to pause. We've got comments aplenty coming in. Let's get through them real quick. We've got Jim Layton, our good friend, here saying hello. Now, Jim is going to be our guest this coming Thursday. You do not want to miss that. He always has good show and tell, and he's got an event to talk about. Alan Gove, our good friend from New Hampshire. Nice to see you, Alan. Our good friends, Stacy and Art Fosler from Black Hill, New York. Nice to see you. Mike Whiteside, regular viewers here. Nice to see you. Our good friend John Spranger Jr. is here from Eland, Wisconsin. Our regular co-host on Thursday nights, Rob Hilditch, is here. And I know he's very interested in that Tournament of Champions race series you're involved with. So he's going to have questions for you on that. I guarantee it. Mike Whiteside says he could listen to stories like this for hours, which is very cool. And Rob Hilditch is saying hello. Good stories, he says. Tim Bewick says, good evening, guys. Great to see you. Glenn Ford is here. Now, Glenn is a big moto ski guy. So I'm sure he's going to have some moto ski questions for you. Rob Burkhard is here. I love the history lesson, he says. Thank you. Cool deal. So it looks like we're doing good so far. Rich Shad is here. He's a big Polaris guy. Good evening from Cleveland, New York. And John Spranger Jr. says, awesome stories. It doesn't get better than this. Outstanding. Old Ski-Doo 2 is here saying, good evening, guys. Midnight Rider, our good friend, says, good evening, all. Loves learning about all the history. And also, Old Ski-Doo 2 says, good evening, guys. Oh, it's Reese Fleury from Tupper Lake, New York, our good friend. Outstanding. So I'll ask all these people viewing, if you have questions for Claude about anything we're talking about. He was involved with Moto Ski, with Sno Jet, with Kawasaki, the Tournament of Champions race series, and anything you hear us talking about along the way. If you have questions or comments about any of that, please post them, and we'll try to see if Claude can answer those for you. But with that out of the way, was there an obvious next step of things you'd like to start talking about? Or
yes, before getting too far ahead in the story, back in '65 when I went to work for Rockwell, and he took me up to the Moto Ski factory for the first time, and I met Mr. Bouchard, the owner, and met his people, and Jean-Yves Belanger Engineering. And so seeing that I could speak French and Bob could not, and most of those guys up there were very fluent in French and not so fluent in English.
Sure.
But I became a regular going to the factory and communicating with the factory to cover all kinds of things, whether it be marketing and sales or what we needed, a new sled, or what the customer wanted, or what the problems were, you name it, and we did it. This leads to a short story. As you know, motor ski was bogey wheels. Bogey wheels got to be the best thing going. In 1967, when the Arctic Cat Panther came out, and I was telling the guys at the factory about the slider system, and they said it won't work. So I bought a I don't know who I got it from. I bought a brand new Panther, and I put it in the back of my van and went to LAPIERRE, and the boys took it out of the van, brought it in the shop, the race shop, put it on the jack, looked at that underpinning, and said, nah, that ain't gonna work. So they dissected it all afternoon, and then that evening he said, let's go for a ride. And they had a track where the race guys would go out and just practice in the back. Maybe it was a mile track, rougher than, well, it was bogey wheels, and that bogey wheels created humps.
Yes.
So we each took turns riding each sled, and I got on the Panther and I blew the doors off those guys. We got back to the shop and they put it back on the stand. They said, that's very interesting.
Now they're really looking at it.
No, they were really looking at it. But as you well know, they did not change to a slider system till much later, several years later.
Yeah, right.
And this was in 67 when I did that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the process of working with the guys at the factory, and they knew how I made out racing, and they would help us with tips and what to do. Our biggest holdup back then was clutching. You know, Polaris came out with a heck of a clutch in later years, but back in that year, those years, we didn't have any clutch. Like in 67, I had that 4-cylinder Hearth drone aircraft engine on my sled. And that drone aircraft, because we took the gear case off the front, we ran the clutch right off the crank. The power curve in that 4-cylinder was way high RPM. If you engaged too soon, you couldn't get it off the line.
Wow.
And in order to engage a motor ski clutch later, I mean, it was drilled and put bolts in and you name it to prevent it from clutching in too quick. Because one of those pictures you showed, Mike, at the Lancaster Grand Prix with my 67, I had a,
Is this one?
not that, where all of us are standing there.
Oh, right here.
Right there. Okay. So that motor ski, the second front row, the second from the left with the grills in the front was my 4-cylinder Hearth aircraft engine. Sitting next to me was Bobby Eastman. So on that 4-cylinder, and this was right before the start of the cross country. Mid, you may be able to tell us how many miles that cross country was.
26. Yeah, 26 miles, and it went over the
river
pipeline, across the river, down Page Hill, I think. Yeah.
Now, let me tell you a story about that. So I forget where my clutch kicked in, 7,000, 7,500 or so. And that little engine would turn like 10 grand or better and sounded beautiful. Jesus, 4 straight pipes. I mean, you couldn't get a sled to sound any better than that. So we take off from the fairgrounds and we cross the river, and I'm up in the woods. I'm way ahead of Bobby Eastman. And I wasn't in the front, but the engine was on the Zephyr with a long track. And we go through the woods and we come back to the river, and I hit the river, crossing the river, and I hear a buzzing behind me. And I looked over my shoulder, there was Bobby Eastman coming. Well, when you cross the river, you have to slow down, go up that bank, and then we'd cross Route 2 back into the meadow. When I slowed down for the bank, Bobby Eastman went by me so damn fast, and he got to Route 2, and he never even hit the road. He went over the snowbank, and he landed on the other side of Route 2. I said, oh, shit. I never saw him again. I think he finished like 10 minutes before me.
Yeah, he was about 10 minutes ahead of the second place machine when he got back to the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
They said he did the same thing on Main Street in front of the Catholic Church. He never touched Main Street. He went from bank to bank on something with 3 inches of suspension travel.
That's the spirit, huh?
Yeah, that wasn't the first time I met Bobby Eastman. Yeah. Yeah.
He was a tough young fella. Yeah.
Let's look at him one more time here. That's him on the very right, Bob Eastman.
Yeah.
No, Bob Eastman. Yes, on the very right. Yes.
Adjusting his helmet.
What's his name? The guy next to me was Ken Beto.
Yes.
From Arctic.
Yes.
Louis Cassidy on the left.
Louis, yeah.
Yeah, and
nobody remembers who that guy is behind Bob there, number 4.
I was just going to ask you because his face,
nobody can figure out who that is.
His face looks so familiar.
Yeah.
Yet I don't know who he is. And then
I see Bob Fortin over on the left-hand side also behind number 58.
Yes.
You can just see Bob's face, see his helmet.
Yeah.
But in all fairness to you guys, Eastman was running a 744 twin.
Oh.
On that little tiny Colt. So.
Oh, I guess he outpowered us.
He was running, you know, to the equivalent, automobile equivalent of Hemi Cuda.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess that leads us to the Lancaster Fairgrounds. We started racing at the International Grand Prix when the first year they started. On the fairgrounds, there was a snow track. I mean, you know, it was a nice track. And we were all we were snow racers. We weren't ice racers. And the year after year, basically, we always had a good snow track until that year that I had my little misfortune. That that weekend on Saturday, the speed obstacle, everything we raced was beautiful on Saturday. And then Saturday night, it started raining. And unbelievable, Sunday morning was a sheet of ice.
Yeah.
Heck, we couldn't even stand on it, say nothing about trying to drive a sled with cleats on it.
Oh, horrible.
So we loaded my track up with stove bolts and a good old three-cornered file on my skis. My big problem, I look back on that, I had so many stove bolts on my track that when I hit the throttle, the skis would come up and I had no steering.
Yeah.
So when I was coming down the home stretch and I wanted to pick up another spot and I could see that I wasn't going to turn, so I thought, I'll use the berm. I think that's a good thing. I'll just use the berm and ride around the berm. Well, I got to the berm. There was no steering there either. I never saw the telephone pole, and thank goodness it was there because behind the fence were just lines of people lined right up on the fence. And all I could see were all those people. I knew that's right where I was going.
Yeah.
But then I came to, and the crowd was still there, and I hadn't gotten to them yet because there was a pole in my way. And I couldn't move, and I couldn't see. I thought, I'm blind, I'm paralyzed. I was stuck between the fence and the snowbank. I know you guys have heard this story before.
Sure, but we love to hear it.
Yeah.
And then somebody pulled one of my feet, and I thought, if I can feel that, I'm not paralyzed. And they pulled me out of that groove in the snowbank. Oh, stood up, and I still couldn't see until I turned my helmet around so I could see out the holes. And I just couldn't believe that happened. And so the race was halted while the power company had to come and take care of the pole and get rid of the hot wires and get the wires out of the way. Meanwhile, they took me to the hospital and checked me over, and I had bruised a few places. And then I got back to the tracks, and later that afternoon, I forget what they called that race. This is for all the prior losers of the day, where they ran that. I thought, well, I might as well get in that. When I hit the telephone pole, I broke my brake cable. So I didn't have a brake anyway. And when I got into the losers race, I came in last.
Oh.
My heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Claude, and I think I've told you this before, the Grand Prix, I think should have paid you a little something under the table there for promoting, for the promotion that you did when you struck that pole, because they broke all attendance records in 1970.
Well,
and I think that the word got out that, that snowmobile racing is getting pretty dangerous up there. If you guys don't go see that, you're going to miss something.
The spills and the thrills.
Claude was the one that got that ball rolling, let me tell you.
I think it was the same day that I hit the pole. After I came back, and I was standing between corners 1 and 2. And Dennis Kovaleski, do you remember that name?
Yes.
Dennis was on the Big Cat.
Yes.
And he was fast. And he came around into turn 1, and he tried to ride the berm, and he did not hold the berm. He hit a telephone pole like straight on.
Yeah.
That was a terrible accident that day. And
that was awful.
He really got stove up a lot on that. He never came back to racing after that.
No, I don't think Dennis was ever right after that.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of Bruce going end for end with his King Cat there in 71 and a couple other bad accidents. And I think that's why they got rid of, they stopped using the fairgrounds, to race snowmobiles. They were just getting too fast and the track wasn't safe.
Yes. Yeah.
So they went down on the meadow about a mile above the fairgrounds there. And it was much safer. There was no poles in the way. There was an open field. When they went off the track, they just went out into the snow and then they just came back on. It was so much safer.
Yeah. So let's move on to let's see, 69. Bruce Bryant was running a 793 on that was on a Zephyr long track. And by then I was down to a 634 or 438, whatever class I could race in. And so during those same years, what we didn't know, Moto Ski had already been sold to a company called Giffen Industries. And Giffen had bought Moto Ski, they bought Snow Prince, they bought 2 other off brands in Quebec. And Giffen did nothing but siphon the assets out of the companies. And then they put Moto Ski up for sale again. And Jean-Yves Belanger, we were meeting with them one day, Jean-Yves Belanger, the engineer at Moto Ski, and management. And they made a list of who would be a liable and reliable company to buy Moto Ski at this point. And obviously Bombardier was at top of the list. And Bombardier did buy Moto Ski.
What year was that, by the way? It was somebody was asking about that right here. Stacy and Art Fosler were asking what year.
I believe, without looking back over my documents, I believe it was very late 60s. But Moto Ski, we had a meeting with them. Laurent Baudouin, the son-in-law of Mr. Bombardier, had a meeting with us and told us that their future plans were in mass transportation, and we looked around at each other and said, mass transportation? What's that got to do with snowmobiles? Well, they were getting into the railroad and they were getting into airplanes. And
Right.
he said, but we will continue with the Bombardier recreation products. And Mr. Morin Baudouin went on to tell us that our plans are to go factory direct, not through independent distributors like we have now, which meant, Dufresne out of New York, which had already moved on to another brand, and Rockwell distributors and distributors, Jeans out there in Minnesota and around the country, and that meant that we ought to be looking for another product line. But we didn't know. Bombardier didn't just pull the plug out, and they gave the distributors plenty of time. They gave them till it must have been mid-70s or so, because meanwhile, the snowmobile industry was really transgressing fast. I mean, I went to the Minneapolis trade show. I took photos of 128 different sleds, and I thought, oh my God. Only I found out later there was nowhere near how many different brands were out there. There were more brands I'd never heard of. So after that, and that happened to come up right like a year or so before the gas embargo, the no snow winter, the fuel prices double. I said, nobody's going to ride a sled when you got to pay 50 cents for a gallon of gas. Well, and of course, snowmobile
They had the shortage too.
Yeah, the snowmobile manufacturers are dropping like flies. Every day there was another dozen that dropped out of the market. And those that remained had a little bit more market to be able to capitalize on. So about that time is when Bombardier was making the switch rather rapidly. And back to Moto Ski, said that Bombardier said that Moto Ski would continue to develop their own products, which they let Moto Ski do that for a couple more years. The Bullet came out of that, the F models, but then I don't know what year it was. The next Moto Skis were basically on a Skidoo chassis and with Moto Ski hoods and decals, and they were basically a Skidoo. And about that time, of course, Rockwell did not have a snowmobile to represent anymore. So Rockwell was looking for new products to fill in their product lines. And I was thinking down the road, I love sleds. I love snowmobile business. And Artie Cat approached me because also at that time, you remember MIDGE? Rodco went out in Randolph, Vermont. And Nero out in Canandaigua, New
74,
York.
I think.
What year
74,
was it?
75,
74.
somewhere in there.
So Nero was looking for a New England distributor. Artie Cat was looking for a New England distributor, but Nero said, no, we want it. And so Artie Cat came looking for new people, and they hired myself and Bruce Bryant. And we went to work for Artie Cat. And sales in New England were very good. Cat sales were very strong. And our first few years with Artie Cat in New England surpassed the sales we used to have with Moto Ski. It was just a good product.
Yeah.
And 75. So I'd been with Artie Cat for 2 years, and I heard that Kawasaki was coming out with a new sled. And I thought, a big name, this is the sleds are still dropping like flies around the industry.
Right.
And I thought Kawasaki, a large corporation like Yamaha, they're going to be around when everybody else is gone. And so when Kawasaki came knocking, I went on board with them. and became a New England district manager. And at that time, Kawasaki had just purchased Sno Jet. Now, this is one of the things that's, what you said earlier, Mike. I never sold Sno Jet per se, but the first year that Kawasaki owned them, the very first sled that they came out with was a Kawasaki Sno Jet. And it was a 340 Yamaha oil injection. And it basically was on a Sno Jet chassis. Just one moment.
Sure.
I got to replenish here.
Sure.
So
and actually, but go ahead, finish your thought, and then I do have a question for you.
The Kawasaki Sno Jet 340, and they put a new fiberglass on the same chassis, pretty much, with a 440 Kawasaki engine, and that was the first year. And this was before they even came out with the Invader. The Invader was for the following year. So after 1 year in New England, they came to me and asked me if I'd be interested in the position of national sales manager in Michigan. And we thought about it, and we thought, sure. Grand Rapids, Michigan, I'd never been there before, and we moved our family out to Grand Rapids.
Wow.
And little did we know, you look back and you say, maybe I could have read between the lines, but I'm not very good at reading between the lines, apparently.
Sure. Who is, right?
76, 77, 78, 79. In the spring of 1980, as I was getting ready for the national sales meeting, I was doing a dry run of the presentation with all of the brass from Kawasaki, the president, the VPs, etc. And as I was starting my presentation, one of the snowmobile regional sales managers, Kawasaki motorcycle snowmobile regionals, came in and sat at the table. He sat there for a few minutes, and I started my presentation. He said, hold on. He said, that's not necessary.
Uh-huh.
So what do you mean it's not necessary? He said, you no longer have snowmobiles. He said, we have taken snowmobiles over, and the motorcycle reps are going to rep the snowmobiles.
And that's how you found out.
That's how I found out. I said, oh, my God. I mean, what a way to ruin a guy's day.
They had a beautiful sled, too, didn't they, Mike?
Yes, they sure did. Those are gorgeous sleds.
The Kawasaki's.
Yeah, those wedge-shaped sleds. That
was a beautiful sled.
Yeah.
So basically, I was out of the snowmobile industry after, I think, 17, 18 years.
Wow.
And Kawasaki went on that year, and motorcycle guys were handling them. It was, and then Kawasaki made the decision to get out of the sled business just a couple of years later. But meanwhile, while I was there, the first year, Artie Cat built the sleds, the Kawasaki Sno Jet and the Kawasaki Drifters. And in the process, Kawasaki was in the process of moving all tooling to Lincoln, Nebraska, so he could produce the sleds on the jet ski line, the motorcycle lines, etc., which made sense. You don't want to be making your sleds at Arctic Cat when you're selling a Kawasaki. And so that worked out in terms of building the sleds. It just didn't work out for longevity of Kawasaki. But before the end of that story is when I went on board, the guys at the R&D Center in Shakopee, Minnesota, were working on a race sled. They had taken the Sno Jet, their racing sled, and were making changes to that so it would be a Kawasaki racer. And they hired race drivers. Jacques Villeneuve was one of the drivers. And I forget now what the displacement they were, that class they were going to race in. But so they did that for the first year, introduced it, and the second year raced it, and they saw they were not going to be very successful putting all that money into a race team. So one day I get called into a meeting in Grand Rapids with the president, the director of marketing, the business manager, and myself. And the marketing director tells us Kawasaki is going to drop the race team. Well, I was looking forward to that. I wanted to see those guys make it.
Yeah.
He says, I don't know what we're going to do to promote our sled. And so we're throwing ideas around the table. And I said, what about something along the lines of the IROC series? Huh. Everybody shakes their head. That could work. And so that was the birth of the Kawasaki Tournament of Champions. Started right there that day. And so over the next period of this happened in the spring. So over the period of the next couple of months, the discussions were, what are we going to do? The rules, how is this going to run? What's the sled going to look like? Had to be an Invader, but can't be the same color as a blue Invader. It got to make it something special, like that lime green, Kawasaki green. And so they put between the director of marketing and the R&D center in Shakopee, Minnesota, put the Tournament of Champions sleds together during that summer and got their trailer. Well, they still had a trailer from the race team, so they didn't have to buy another one. And then the rules were for the guys, the top, and it's a little fuzzy in my mind right now, but the top drivers and going around in USA, what it was back then.
Point probably the top in points.
Yeah. Would race at one of these selected races to race against each other on one of these specially built sled, but it wasn't a specially built sled. It was a standard sled, but all set up identical. There was no favorite in the bunch, supposedly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was all driver. It depended on the driver. And I've heard from Fran Rosenquist say, you never knew which sled you were going to get. You might run that corner's good here, but it won't corner good somewhere else. So, and then, so that turned out to be very successful.
That was pretty good feedback with the drivers too, wasn't it, Claude?
Yes, it was.
They enjoyed that.
Yeah, and they made money at it. Yeah. Wow. Then there was a tournament champion race in Scarborough Downs, up south of Portland. And this would have been 79, I believe. It was, of course, that's a mile track. And they had built that track, ice track. And so we were going to go there. But along the way, it was decided that we should try to break the 24-hour record on number of miles. And we had 2 sleds, 10 drivers, and I was one of the timekeepers. There was a number of things, plus it was sanctioned by USSA. And so they had their people there to sanction it, the start, the stop, all of that, to make sure that there was nothing gone awry here and counting laps and stuff. And the guy, it was cold that night, my God. The other thing you got to remember, there was no slider lube systems on the sliders back then. Yeah. And racing on ice, you just look at all these racers, they've all got their little sliders, lube systems.
Turn those sliders right up.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know that for sure. And so the race started. It was very, very cold all that night, a long night. And the drivers would drive 1 hour, come in, switch drivers. They ran 24 hours. Both sleds never blew a belt, which was pretty amazing. But what we didn't know, the other thing we'd do is change the skis every couple hours because the carbide was worn right off and they couldn't turn very good anymore. But what happened was, because no lube, the guys would go out there and shovel snow on the track, and they had a snowblower and they'd blow snow on the track. We started wearing sliders down, and they had to be replaced. Well, when the dealer replaced them, they charged the customer, I don't know, an hour and a half or so to replace a slider. I mean, you can't put a sled down for an hour and make any headway. So the first, and of course, they had the top mechanics there from R&D, and the dealers supplied some mechanics. That the first slider they changed in 15 minutes, which to us was amazing. Wow. At the end of that 24 hours, they were changing them in 8 minutes.
Wow.
So one
they
sled.
Didn't even take the track off.
Pardon?
They didn't even take the suspension out of it, did they?
They did.
They took the suspension out of it and back in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
So at the end of the 24 hours, one sled had gone 1,024 miles and the other one had gone 8 miles less or something like that. They were only a few laps apart at that point. So, which we were tickled to death.
Yeah.
I think it was a week or two later in Michigan, one of our dealers broke the record.
Oh, wow.
On ice.
That's cool.
You know, records were easier to break back then.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That was big press, as I remember, for Kawasaki there for a while.
Yes. We had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah.
You know, one year we took our Kawasaki sleds to Finland to ride. And this was the first week in May. And we took, I don't know, a dozen or more editors or publishers with us, USSA, Snow Track, Snow Goer, you know, all those guys that wrote the publications. And we all went to Finland. We flew into Helsinki, then flew north to Rovaniemi, which is right on the Arctic Circle. And then Volvo provided us with some station wagon Volvos, and we drove another 100 miles to a little place called Akaslompolo. And it was really remote.
Wow.
And so these guys up in Finland, they had snowmobiles, and they had snowmobiles that would go in that kind of snow. So the guys come up with a semi and they'd back up to the snowbank. It was, I forget, midday, and the sun was up and the snow was all sugary. And the first guy drove his Kawasaki out of the back of the semi, hit the snowbank and sunk right to the ground.
Oh.
So we would ride the sleds well after dark. Well, it was actually very little dark because first week in May, the sun just barely kissed the horizon. It came right back up again in just a matter of half an hour or so.
Wow.
And so we would ride at night because it was daylight till, you know, basically all night. And right on the crust, it was good riding. And daytime, we'd do something else. Back to Moto Ski. Let me see, how we doing on time here? Oh, hell.
Well, we got plenty of time. We can go into the second hour if we need to.
Moto Ski, again, skipping around because my mind's going back and forth, but with Kawasaki in the spring, that's usually when we shot our commercials. And they like to shoot commercials out west because they had more sunshine in the spring than we do in Michigan. We shot up in Munising, Michigan one year, and it's cloudy all the time. And we got the commercial done, but and some people might remember this commercial. We had this happened over 2 years. We were up there. one of the commercials was to have let me see, which one? Oh, the first one was introducing the Kawasaki's Harder Than Snow commercial. And a semi backed up to the snowbank. And the guys on the sleds inside the semi, we could hear their sled start. And there was two guys with pieces of twine hooked onto the semi doors. And when they heard the sled come in, they were supposed to open the doors and the sled come flying out. Well, the first time the twine broke and he hit the door.
Oops.
It finally worked it out. The next one I want to tell you about was the hottest thing on snow, and Kawasaki had parachute mounted to the back of the sled. And what I'm going to tell you was from an outtake. So a friend of mine and worked for Kawasaki, Warren Harrington from up in the Upper Peninsula, was driving the sled, and he had his parachute behind him. He was supposed to be coming down, and he's riding flat out in light, fluffy snow, and the snow is flying. And he pulls the parachute. Parachute comes out beautiful. And you look at it, and somebody had sewn the A upside down in the Kawasaki.
Oh.
So yeah, Kawa. Okay.
Oh.
So we had to redo that.
Yeah.
Another commercial was they wanted to make it based on the Flying Blue Angels. We were out in the Rockies for that. And riding in the Rockies, there's a lot of nice drifts and stuff. And so the idea was to have 4 invaders bust through the snowdrift and peel off like the Blue Angels.
Oh.
Oh yeah, nice.
It doesn't always work like that. Bust through that drift.
Works good on paper.
And everything. It was a riot.
You had a photo of you jumping one of those too, and you were really in the air, Claude.
Yeah, let me find that.
Yeah, that was a bone breaker.
No, that
one right.
Kawasaki.
No, that one right there. That one right there was taken down in Manchester, New Hampshire. It was a small race, and one of the things we had to do during the day to get points was jump. And that was the hay you saw on the ground, except I missed the hay pile. But that was a 67 there.
Wow. And I've got a quick question, Claude, while we're back on Moto Ski for a minute. I'm going to say late 60s, early 70s, they had an advertising campaign for Moto Ski where they were running them down trails in the summer, saying that if it can take this in the summer, it's going to be able to take the trails.
Down the dry riverbed is the one I remember.
Yes. Were you mixed up with that at all, or were you involved with that?
I didn't see it till after it was done, but Tough for 7 Ways.
Tough in 7 ways, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Tough for 7
They had that one going down the riverbed, and they had the guy going up over what was that? I can't remember where it was taken at, but on a roller coaster.
Yeah,
roller coaster in between the tracks, and he goes up over and everything down the other side and everything. You know.
Yeah.
It was
try this at home, folks.
Yeah, I think that year was a sauce marche. You know.
I got to tell you something. There was no bigger fan than a motor ski fan as far as sleds go. There was no more loyal fan than a motor ski owner.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm telling you right now.
At that point
in Lancaster, people like Polaris and everything, and they like cats and stuff, but those motor ski guys were rabid.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have anything but an orange machine.
And if you were on a skidoo, it was a skidoo, right?
No, there was just something about motor ski owners. It's once there's no gig. They wouldn't have ridden anything else. It's crazy. They just had a loyal following.
There's a passion there.
back on Moto Ski in the early days, there was no sport of snowmobiling because there was not that many snowmobiles around.
Yeah.
So our customer base were hunters, trappers, loggers going back in. And so when I came on board, we sold a group of motor skis to the Vermont Fishing Game, and then to New Hampshire Fishing Game. And then Vermont bought, I forget how many, it was like 35 or 40 of them.
Yes.
And one day when I was in Montpelier, I went up to the Vermont State Police headquarters and I, knocked on the door, so to speak. And she said, what can I do for you? I said, let's speak to somebody that buys your snowmobiles. She said, we don't buy snowmobiles. So she called Captain Dean, which was the head of the Vermont State Police at the time. And Captain Dean, because I was a snowmobile and he had an Arctic Cat, he said, come on up to my office. I went up there and we started talking about snowmobiling, and he enjoyed the heck out of it. And then the department bought some motor skis.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, Captain Dean, Lieutenant Woodard, I forget all the other names, but they said, could you take us on a safari up in Maine? I said, sure, I'll arrange it. So the owner of Rockwell, Bob Morrow, owned an island up on Moosehead Lake. And the island, about 70 acres. And the only way to get in there in the summertime is by boat or fly in. And in the wintertime, Lily Bay would freeze up to the island about 5 miles, and you could ride a sled across. So we planned a snowmobile trip up into the Allagash region. And you might hear, the name might be familiar to you, Midge, Al Nugent. Al Nugent up on Chamberlain Lake, a trapper. He went up in there in 1939 because he said the traffic and hustle and bustle of Brewer, Maine was getting too hectic. So he went up in the Allagash, built a log cabin. He married and brought his bride up there, and he ran a trap line. And so we knew him through Bob Morrow, had met him, and we made contact with him, and he said, if you come up, he said, by that time he built a couple of cabins. He said, you can rent our cabins. And we left, a group of us, must have been 4 state police, maybe 2 or 3 from Rockwell. And we went up the whole length of Moosehead Lake, and no trails. We went up the west bank of the Penobscot and on the ice here and there, and old logging roads here and there. And we finally made it to Nugent's, and we stayed there. And every day we'd take rides up on, there was a Telos Lake, Eagle Lake, Churchill Lake, it was great riding. And one night, sitting at the dinner table, Al Nugent told us this story. He said, a few years after they went up into the Allagash, he said, I saw an ice boat. And he said, I thought if I had an ice boat, I'd be able to run my trap line, come home to my wife at night. And he said, it was a great idea.
Yeah.
So he looked and he looked for an ice boat and he couldn't find one. One day, wherever he was, he saw a Piper Cub on skis. And he said, that will work.
Yeah.
So he didn't know how to fly. So he gets the Piper Cub on skis and he said, I take off. Al Nugent had a dry sense of humor. He said, I take off. And of course, that was just a stick and rudder, right? And he said, I'm going up the lake. And he said, I hit snow drifts. And he said, I looked down. He said, oh, I'm off the ground. Oh, he said, this worked really
That's
good.
what it's supposed to do.
So he said over the next few days, he taught himself how to fly that thing, land, take off.
Oh, my goodness
And he said,
sakes.
I could go up to my trap line and back, he said, and be home with my wife at night.
Oh my goodness sakes! Can you imagine?
The biggest thing that happened to him, though, he said, one day he was up on Churchill Lake coming back home, and it started raining, and it was freezing rain. It froze on the wings. Well, once you put ice on an airplane wing, it loses lift.
Yeah.
So he's coming down to the end of Churchill Lake, and there's not an opening big enough for the fuselage and the wings. He said, there's an opening. He said, I know I can get through there. So he goes through that opening, tears both wings off. Now, on the Piper Cub, the gas tank's right in front of the pilot, right behind the engine. There's no fuel in the wings, and cut a wire or two. And he said, now I had my ice boat.
Nice.
Oh, geez.
That's cool. Now, Claude, there's a question that was posed earlier, and I don't want to miss it because it's a really good question. It was posed by Reese Fleury. He's also known as Old Ski-Doo 2. He wanted to know if you ever worked with the Dufresnes out of Malone, New York in the Moto Ski days.
I sure did. Yes. Al Dufresne, and we were very good friends with Rockwell and Dufresne's, because in the early days, it was a matter of swapping parts. You need something, you need an engine. We didn't have it. You go over to Dufresne's and get it. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for answering that. That's some good history right there. And then we're getting some comments, too, about the boat with no wings. And then Rush Fan is saying a 71 338 Zephyr, the long track, was the trail braking machine.
Yes. Considering that we had no more than like 4 inches of travel in the track.
Sure.
It had to be, and a long track was long enough to bridge over the snow that you couldn't do it with a short track, but the long track with Zephyr was very, very good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know what we would have done with 15, 16 inches of travel in our tracks like they have today. You know,
You got to have a step ladder to get on one now.
Yes. Yeah. And then I've got a question for Rush Fan. Assuming he's the kind of Rush fan I think he is. I'm a Rush fan too, the band. What is your favorite Rush album? If you can leave that in the comments. That's kind of a side question. But Mike Whiteside was saying knee shocks don't last very long. And Glenn Ford is saying, isn't that the truth? It's true. Back in the day, your legs were the suspension, weren't they?
Absolutely. On that cross country in Lancaster, you know it by the time you got back.
Crazy.
And
then, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike, with what you.
No, I was going to start popping some of these images on and getting some stories. But if you still have more of your timeline,
maybe one of those images. I don't know if you have it or not, of me at I think it was at Scarborough Downs on ice.
Is it this one?
Yeah.
Oh, right there now.
That one.
If you've got real good eyes, you look on my skis, and I was running pizza cutters.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Those little
we
discs.
thought, the kegs, the 3-cornered files didn't work that great, but we thought that the pizza cutters ought to work. It didn't work all that great either.
Wow. I have seen those. Those are cool. Those were before carbides, weren't they?
Yeah, they weren't not as cool as carbides, though.
Sure. And then I'll pop some of these other ones on if you have stories.
Yeah, this one here, Bruce Bryan on the 793. This was January 7th, 8th, 9th, January 9th at the Balsams. There was Balsams had a great race that year, and we had Polaris drivers there. We had Moto Ski Factory sent drivers down. And there was a pretty lengthy cross country, mostly on old logging roads and everything. Bruce was a fearless driver. He was just fearless.
Wow. It looks it in that shot too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Hell bent for leather, is that what they call it?
Tight.
Nice.
This is on my 67 fourth cylinder. They had a great season with that on there. This is
These are the trophies from that season?
Yeah.
So these were the trophies from that season?
Yeah.
Nice. And then this shot here.
Oh, that was taken on a 793 in Lancaster Cranes, and this is owned by what's his name up there? He was at your show.
Oh, he's got Polaris's too.
Yes.
Oh, Jason Gibbs, maybe?
Yes,
Jason Gibbs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah, John Gibbs sleds.
he said,
But John's passed away now.
"Oh, he did."
Yeah, John passed away about 2 years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry to hear that.
So when I met him and he knew about me, and he said, "Want to take a ride on this?" I said, "You kidding me? I want to hear it run. I want to hear that blat."
Yeah.
So I took it down. Yeah, as you remember on that day, what day? This was on. Was that the week? That's the weekend of the 50th roundup, wasn't it?
The 50th Grand Prix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so that would have been on a Friday then.
So I took it out in the yard and just drove it down to the end, and
Yeah.
I'd forgotten how big and top heavy that baby was.
Yeah.
Nice. And then was this associated with that same day?
It was.
Okay.
Oh, sometimes that weekend, yeah.
Sure.
See, I'm not supposed to be in that. They forced me to stand up there with those guys.
Now,
And I wasn't even worthy to shine their shoes, but they had me stand up in line with them.
yeah, I don't know why not. You had a lot with organizing that.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but I just
Just
felt
look,
funny. I felt funny to be there.
just look at Bill Bovai on the end. I didn't know Bill. Then Bruce Bryant, Conrad,
Yeah.
Bob Clark, Paul Crane,
Louis
Neve,
Lon.
and Bruce Boulevard, Bruce Hawes there, Tom McLaughlin,
Yeah. Tommy
Bobby
McLaughlin.
Martin. Yeah.
Yeah. Dave Bennett kneeling down. Dave won the Grand Prix
Yes.
in '65. He won the second Grand Prix.
And then he raced that weekend.
Yeah, he actually had the original Skidoo that he won the '65 Grand Prix with. He had the original 1965 Skidoo that he won. It's the one behind Bob Clark and them guys and Conrad. See that Skidoo?
Yes.
So
that's either the '63 that won the first Grand Prix, or it's Dave Bennett '65 that won the second Grand Prix.
So who brought the sled? Did he still own it?
Yeah, he still owns it.
Wow.
He's still got it today. He's just still got it. And Shane purchased that '63 that won the first Grand Prix. Mike Lavoie down in Haverhill found that sled. It was Dana Lyons actually won the race in 1964, and on a '63 Skidoo 8-horse. And Mike Lavoie found that sled. It was in the basement of the Lyons house, and Dana had passed away, but the sled was still there, and it was all in pieces. And he took all the pieces. He went home and he completely restored that sled. It would look just like brand new. And Shane offered him, to buy that, and so he sold it to Shane. So it's at Shane's right now.
That sled ran awful good that weekend.
Oh, they all did. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And I remember, Claude, when you were on the back of that Moto Ski and Bob Martin was driving, you hollered over, you hollered to me, and I came over and you said, this is the first. Actually, no, Bob was on the back and you were driving. That's right. Yeah. And you said, this is the first time that I've ever been ahead of Bob Martin.
Yes, that was a true statement.
Yeah. And then Sunday, Bob took his Blizzard out that was restored.
Yes. Yeah, that was
the
beautiful.
Belanger family.
Yeah.
And he did a few hot laps with his Blizzard.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sled.
That was a beautiful, beautiful sled. 72 Blizzard.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now we've got some questions that have come in. They're pretty darn good ones too, if I do say so. Now, our good friend Ben from Vintage Mini Bike Lovers, he and I do the Vintage Mini Bike podcast the second Sunday of every month. He's asking, what does Claude think of the 73 Moto Ski SR as a racer in its day? How did it compare to the 73 Ski-Doo Blizzard?
I don't have a good answer for that because I was never on that sled. I can't really answer that.
Sure. Was there talk from other riders
Well,
of
the
it?
73, like the Sonic, and I'm not sure if that's when the
Were
Sonic.
they the same chassis?
Well, I thought it was, and maybe he can tell us if it was the same chassis. But the Sonic was a great little sled.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what else we've got? We've got Rush Fan is asking, how fast was a 793?
With the
Did they ever
clutching
find out?
with the clutching that we had, I would say 80 was a mighty fast speed.
Yeah.
Breakneck speed.
Yeah.
To keep the right side up.
It really felt it, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. And then our good friend Carolyn Eastman, this is Bob Eastman's wife, is asking,
Hi,
do you
Carolyn.
have any?
I've got the hat on tonight.
That's right. That hat comes from her.
Very nice. Yeah.
I've got the Bob Eastman pin right there.
And this is from Carolyn too.
Where's your Bob Eastman pin there, Mike?
Oh, it's just out of reach. I can get it if we need to, but it's
No.
I have to get up.
No, I did not. After I got out of the sled business, I got into a totally different industry, which we moved around, and I had no more room for sleds.
Gotcha. So they're all gone?
They're all gone. Yeah.
Wow. That's too bad.
Yeah.
And then, Mac is responding to Ben saying, I'm more late than you, later to the program. And Rush Fan says, thank you for that answer. And, here we go. Carolyn Eastman likes our caps. I don't know if she's talking about midges or mine, but and I rotate between the Amsoil cap because we market Amsoil on here. I rotate between that and the cat cap. Love them both. And thank you so much, Carolyn, for these caps.
I like mine.
Yeah, I like yours too, Claude.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And
Claude
then also,
you sent me, you said 3.
Yeah.
And Paul's got one. And you wanted me to give Rick one.
Yeah.
I don't know where the other. I never found the other one, so I'm out of hat. But Paul's
some of them,
Rick's got
some
one.
people did not like this because it didn't say anything about snowmobiles. So I redid the logo, and it says Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's cool. And while we're talking about hats, I've got to do this. Midnight Rider sent me this. Remember the old Viking snowmobiles?
Yes.
Let me go full screen here. It was awfully nice of him to send me this.
Yeah,
I would wear it here doing the podcast, but it gets too hot. I get hot easy anyway. But I do thank you so much for the cap. That's more for wearing outside. And then Ben from the Vintage Mini Bike Lovers YouTube channel says, yes, my understanding, pardon me, I'm losing my voice. My understanding, the same chassis used the BSE engine. There was one shown in that photo of Claude sitting on the Gibbs sled just to the left, which would be our right. Let me pop that image on the screen one more time. Where was that? Right here. Oh, right on the side there. Yes.
Oh, yeah. That one there. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call. And then there was one more comment. Brent Harp says, hi, guys. I'm new here. What's good? Well, cool. Yeah. What's good is vintage snowmobiling. And we like to document, preserve, and celebrate the rich history of the snowmobile on these podcasts that we do. And if you're into that, you've come to the right place. And we thank you for viewing tonight and hanging out with us tonight. And then I don't know if you had any more on your timeline, Claude. If you don't, we've got a few other things we wanted to cover. Did you have anything else that we haven't covered?
You know, when I was in the sled business, we loved to go riding wherever there was snow. I mean, when you're in the snowmobile enthusiast, you're looking for snow.
Yes.
And we would look for the last snow in the spring. It was like Finland. We went to Labrador one year. this was the week before Memorial Day, and we got snowed in up there. We'd go out to the Rockies. I mean, we were always looking for a place to ride.
Nice. Late
Yeah.
season. That's cool. So is this a good time to shift gears and talk about Dave Picard?
It is, yes.
All right. Yeah, let me pop an image on him. This is one of the later images of him. Did you have any stories associated with
Well,
him? Or?
As I told you how I met Dave, and he was on that yellow sled.
Yes,
and
that's right.
As time went on, he worked for us and at Rockwell, and we became really, really good friends. And even after he got out of the sled business and I was out of the snowmobile business, I would go down. Whenever we went down south, we would stop in and see him and his wife.
Nice.
And it's a matter of, you don't see somebody for a few years, and you walk in and right away, it's like you haven't left yet. You've got stories about him or me together and stuff that you don't forget a guy like that. It was a real good friendship.
That's nice. And then we've got images of back in the day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, with his mechanic. Like I said before, this was in Massachusetts. No, I forget what race it was at, but
yeah. And then we've got these.
Yeah, that was taken in Vermont. We had a 24-hour enduro, and there was 2 sleds and 2 drivers per sled. And on the left was Phil LaRiviere from Mexico, Maine, myself, Dick Provenci from Maine, and David Picard. And I forget how many sleds were there that day, but we won first and second place.
Yeah. Very nice. And then we've got these. This is a few years later, maybe?
Yeah. This was taken at the Balsams at a dealer presentation one spring.
Very nice. And then he was also part of the Timberland team.
That's correct. The Big T. Yeah.
That's him in the lower left, and I've got a closer shot of that.
Yes,
where you could actually read this if you wanted to. Yeah, I could read it if you'd like me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, it says, from Freeport, Maine, age 23, Dave Picard comes to the Timberland racing team from the Rockwell Moto Ski team. This will be his first year under the Big T colors. Prior to his joining the Moto Ski team, he spent 3 years racing Ski-Doos. Picard crossed the finish line, taking more first places at the Deerfield, Maine races in 1967 to corner his first major win. Last year, Dave racked up a number of points, giving this young Maine driver 4th overall in the eastern section of the USSA. Many racing observers consider Picard to be one of the finest young talents ever to come along and riding the big machines in a long time. David is quite light, however, he has that certain racing know-how that comes for so very few. He has exact timing and the easy riding ability that often, I'm having trouble reading, gives his competitors sheer nightmares. So he gives his competitors sheer nightmares. That's quite a compliment right there.
It is, yeah.
Yes, for sure. Well, cool. And then I know we also wanted to talk about Bruce Dunham. I've got a video clip of him being inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. Midge is the founder of that Hall of Fame. Most people watching this already know that, but in case you're just coming along for the first time, Midge is the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. Before we view his induction clip, do either of you have comments you want to make about Bruce?
Well, let me just say what I said before about how I met Bruce, and we became good friends shortly thereafter. There were occasions in Berlin, New Hampshire. We went to a race, and
you beat him in Berlin.
Oh, I beat him in Berlin more than once. I beat him up in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, every race that day with Cal Reynolds chasing him.
There's one thing about Claude. He protected his backyard. You don't come racing with Claude in his backyard and expect to go away with a win there.
I needed Monday morning sales.
That's right.
But
yeah, you weren't just racing, you were working.
Yes, absolutely. In Berlin, we raced all that day in Berlin. That night it was really snowing, and Bruce said the roads are going to be bad. So we all went over to my sister's house in Berlin, and he stayed with us that night.
Wow.
And
Bruce was, I love Bruce.
yeah,
He and Mary were just.
We had a beer or two, and he told us all about his racing, and he already knew about mine. We had a great time.
That's cool.
Bruce stayed with us 2 or 3 times there
Yeah.
when we had the Grand Prix and, you know, and the inductions and stuff. He and Mary would stay here with us.
That's nice.
What a treat.
Yes. So let's play his induction clip. This is him being inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame in 2017, which is the first induction ceremony that the Hall of Fame held. Let's take a look at that. Let's see if it'll load, because it took a minute for me.
The next recipient is Mr. Bruce Dunham. There's Bruce as we knew him when he was racing in his prime. Remember that, Cal?
He shows you how.
Bruce Dunham, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame in 2017. Raced from 1963 to 1975, mostly in Mod 4 and 5 class. Was a member of the USSA Driver Committee. Won over 400 first, second, and third place trophies in 12 years of professional snowmobile racing. Had won nearly every major championship in New England more than once. Was second in points, competing against an estimated 5,000 active drivers in eastern USSA. In 1971, Bruce won 7 out of 9 cross-country races and took second in the other 2. The only person to have his name engraved on the famous Kilkenny Cup 4 times. Received Grand Prix Pioneer Award in 2015. Was honored by the state of Maine in 2016. Bruce Dunham, one of the best.
Oh,
You got one right here.
okay. Hey.
Yeah. Turn it around.
Yes, sir. Edge.
Congratulations, Bruce.
Hey, buddy. You were the great ones, mister.
Here we go. The great Bruce Dunham inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2017. Reactions to any of that? Or
That was a great day for me. Those guys. What are we froze up here, Mike? No.
No, we're here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, like I've said many times, you know, Karl Yastrzemski was a hero of mine. You know, Boston Celtics teams and the Boston Bruins teams. All those guys I watched on television all those years, and you know, but they never came to Lancaster. Bruce Dunham came to Lancaster.
Yes.
You know, Claude Hebert came to Lancaster.
Yes. And Cal Reynolds.
Cal Reynolds came to Lancaster. You know, those guys all came to my hometown. So yeah, it's very special to be able to recognize these pioneers that started the whole thing. You know, to be able to recognize them.
Yeah, for sure. And Claude, any comments, reactions?
No, because Bruce deserved to be there right from the start because he was that great a racer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when Bruce, even Mary used to race.
Mary raced too, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mary won a lot of
Yes, she
trophies
did.
too back then.
Yeah.
And and Claude can attest to this. The girls ran the same sleds that the men did. They were running the same machines in the powder puffs.
Yep, my wife used to run the powder puff. My sister in Berlin, she won quite a few races. She was good.
Yeah, Verna White won quite a few. Sally Beatty, all those ladies.
Yeah.
Sally won more trophies than Mike did.
Now, speaking of your sister, Claude, I don't know if this is the same sister, but this is a completely irrelevant photograph. But is that your sister with me?
That's my younger sister, Nikki. My older sister, she's the one that you met up to Almouse's party.
Yes, Romance. Yes, exactly. Yeah. After Romance passed.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways that Claude and I are connected is through the Page family.
Yeah.
But I digress. But we've also got some other comments that have come in. Here we go. Mad Dog says some really cool stories tonight. Great show, and thank you for sharing, Claude.
You're more than welcome. I enjoyed it.
Well, we're glad. And Brent Harp says a drag race from 76 to 81, seen and drag race most of the vintage sleds. I'm happy you found us. So he's happy you found this podcast. We're happy you found us too. Yeah, this is a place for all of us who enjoy this vintage stuff to hang out and have a good time. And we do it as often as we can. Now, Ben from Vintage Mini Bike Lovers says, what an awesome way to preserve this history. And I thank Claude very much for sharing his rich and storied past in vintage snowmobiles.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're getting comments aplenty here tonight, Claude. You've come to the right place. Alan Gove, regular viewer, says, did Claude ever race at the Canaan Fairgrounds track in Canaan, New Hampshire?
I was going to say yes until I looked at New Hampshire, Canaan, Vermont, but New Hampshire, I'm not sure I was ever there.
Gotcha. Because you're from Colebrook, just over the border from Canaan, Vermont. Yeah. And it's funny, I grew up in Canaan. I'm sure we crossed paths somewhere in stores or something.
Yeah.
And didn't even know it and just met years later. But Midnight Rider says, did Claude ever race at Eagle River, Wisconsin?
I never made it that far, guys. I didn't have enough points. The furthest I went was in New York State at a championship race one year in New York, and but mainly home territory was New England states.
Yes.
We didn't have USSA. We didn't have point systems. Hell, we didn't even have bibs.
No.
Sure.
No, when they first started out, there was no points. In fact, a lot of those early races were never even covered in the paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
the
the people who were into
62 and 63 Moto Toboggan, they call them Moto Toboggan races here in Lancaster in 62 and 63.
Yeah.
And I went to the library and looked through the microfiche back then, and I looked at many. I looked like in December all the way through to March on 62 and 1963 to see if it was ever covered. Those two races, and I can't find out who won them. Wow. I don't know who raced in them. I don't know who won them. All I know is that they did hold those events.
Wow. Mike, I see a comment there from Brent about meeting Jim Adema.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's from right outside Grand Rapids here. And I met him when he was in Maine because he was riding a Sno Jet, Thunder Jet.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy was amazing.
Oh.
Amazing guy on
what a
sled.
talent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And his wife was too.
I raced that day, but him and I were not in the same class. Thank goodness. That Thunder Jet of his was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then Brent is also saying he's looking at 32 trophies that he won We raced in the WSRF Racing Association. Very cool.
Yeah, I remember the WSRF. Yeah.
And then our good friend Armin Buto from Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, saying incredible show tonight. Appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, thanks, Armin.
Yes, and we owe it all to Claude, who's here with us tonight. Mike Whiteside says so cool. Henry Thomas says had a Moto Ski Mini 68 rounded fiberglass cowl, raised headlight, not cut out. Might have been a prototype. Does that sound familiar?
Well, yes, and because it came with a single cylinder, but you know you can't leave a single cylinder on a nice little sled like that. You got to put a little twin on it, right?
Yes.
And we did, and we would drag race it in the summertime with a 634
exactly
on it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like they did with the Elands.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
And then Brent Harp says, we never raced oval, just drag racing. These people who pioneered racing really need to be acknowledged. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Between Midge and I, we do our best because Midge is the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, and I do these podcasts trying to celebrate this history. And yeah, we appreciate your being here tonight.
Yes.
Andrew Straco says, this is a great show. Appreciate that compliment. Brent Harp says, Ben, do you remember the Rupp mini cycle? I had one. The engine blew out, and my dad put a 25 horsepower J-Lo engine in it. That was fast. Ooh, I bet that was fast. 25 horsepower.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Wow.
Now that was a good sled. That Rupp. It was
Yes,
lightweight.
it was.
Lightweight. Yeah, it would go.
Yeah, the Sno Jets, the Rupps, there's so many great brands that went by the wayside.
Yeah.
So many innovations that these sleds had. I'm glad they were there because it helped bring the snowmobile, it furthered the snowmobile down the trail with all the great innovations that these companies produced.
If you'll indulge me, I have another Moto Ski story.
Yes, please.
This is the time that Bombardier came out with a twin track, and Moto Ski had developed a twin track. And so they invited another guy and I to go to Labrador to see the new sleds. We went to Montreal. We got into a DC-3 with 4 race sleds and went to Labrador. And we landed at Shefferville. There was lots of snow. This I mentioned earlier, the week before Memorial Day. And the snow, probably 6 feet of snow, lots of snow. Anyway, the guys were all very anxious to try out that twin track. The twin track had totally like a roll cage. It was like a sprint car looking thing. And what they had put in it was a Kawasaki 3-cylinder motorcycle engine and transmission. They thought that would work good. Well, shifting on snow and shifting on a bike, 2 different things.
Wow.
Anyway, the guy
manual motorcycle clutch.
Pardon?
With a manual motorcycle clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
please continue. Yeah.
The test driver gets in the sled, buckles in, and he goes around the track. Jesus, sounds beautiful. And made probably a half-mile track and riding on the crust. And each lap he would pick up a little bit more speed. And finally he comes by us and he's got that thing cranked right up because that 3-cylinder Kawasaki, when it came out, they had lots of horsepower. And he gets down to turn 1 and he turns, except what happened, the right ski broke through the crust, hooked on the crust.
Oh.
And the twin track went end for end, and he never got hurt at all. But the sled was out of commission. And that was actually the last time that Moto Ski ever worked on a twin track.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember in the first Grand Prix down here, Claude, in '64, when a couple of the guys from the Bombardier factory came down with 305 Superhawk Honda engines in them. And they had to shift it, with their foot.
Yeah.
And they didn't pan out that well. they both ended up breaking the chains out of the chain case. The chains couldn't stand the torque, so.
Wow.
But that was the first attempt at, putting motorcycle engines in a snowmobile that I remember.
We had a we had a guy that came from the Moto Ski factory down to the Balsams race. And it was the first year of you've heard of a Twingle?
No.
They took a 438 engine, they twisted the crank so they both go up and down same time. Okay. And instead of a clutch, they built a big friction clutch like what a chainsaw has on it. So
like go-karts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that engine engaged pretty high. Number one, to start a Twingle was not like starting a little twin. And you got it started. And when you engage this thing, I mean, whatever RPM you're going, this track is going that fast already. And of course, every time you come into a turn, you let off in it, the expansion comes off.
Yeah.
And now you come back on it and it slips again. When they came back after the race, this whole thing they built for a clutch was cherry
red.
Cherry red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we've got a comment.
Everybody had to try something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a great time of experimentation.
If it didn't work, they tried something else.
Yeah. Now, Carolyn Eastman is talking about Jim Adema. The tether pull switch was implemented after Jim's passing. Bob Eastman, Charlie Lofton, and Sam Sessions were on the safety committee for USSA and made that rule happen. They made it happen ASAP.
Great rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, here we go. Stacy Nort Fosler, they have a 79 Moto Ski GPS getting ready to start it after sitting 30 years. Wow. We'd like to see a video on that if you're able to. And Brent Harp says my first sled was a 400 American Rupp. Sweet.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Stacy and Art Fosler are good friends, telling us it's a great show. Appreciate the compliment. Midnight Rider says, Midge, speaking of Rupp and Sno Jet innovations, they had such beautiful hoods and sleek aerodynamics for the 70s. Yes.
Oh, the best.
Yeah.
They were the hottest looking sleds on the snow.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mickey Rupp did a lot to promote the sport. I mean, Mickey Rupp was developing new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Because then he came out with that twin track dragster. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that. Yeah.
And then John Spranger Jr., our good friend,
it looked like a regular, full-blown dragster with tracks on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Then our good friend John Spranger Jr. is thanking us for an awesome show, for all the histories and stories. Appreciate that. Mike Whiteside says, can't imagine what it would have been like back in the day when there was actually a winter with tons of snow. I know that's a thing gone.
Beautiful it was.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Rush Fan is saying Moto Ski Mini Snow was cute.
Yeah.
Yes. And Rush Fan, I'd still like to know what your favorite Rush album is, assuming that's what you mean by Rush Fan. Max Garage, these old sled stories are priceless. Every generation creates their own.
Yeah.
That's right.
And and then just some back and forth comments reacting to the other comments, and very cool. So in the time we have left, we've got one more clip I'd like to play. We've got a few minutes left. This has been played periodically over the last few years, but it's always good. This is Claude's induction into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. This was 2018 maybe? Or 19? 19,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he shares that story that we were talking about earlier about his incident with the foam pole, but it never gets old. So let's take a look here at Claude's induction. Where is it? Right here. All right. This never gets old. It's just going to take a moment to load. And it's stalling on me here. Yeah, the computer's running a little slow tonight, but thankfully it's running. Because before we went on, we were having some technical problems. I had to
Claude Hebert. Claude Hebert, racer promoter, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2019. Claude's exceptional racing talent in the early 1960s was noticed by the local Colbert Moto Ski dealer, who then hired him as their driver. He was soon invited to race for the Eastern Moto Ski distributor, Rockwell Incorporated. It was here that Claude not only became New England sales manager for Rockwell, but worked closely with the Moto Ski factory on engine development to increase horsepower and was involved in the many rule requirements for racing. His role in production testing and new model development, along with a full racing schedule each season, contributed greatly to Moto Ski's success. When Rockwell Distributors ceased as a distributor for snowmobiles, Claude accepted the job as New England regional manager for Sno Jet, now owned by Kawasaki Motors. Claude was soon promoted to as national international sales manager and involved in the Grand Rapids, Michigan, where he was involved in production testing, product development, and was involved in the development and promotion of the TOC Tournament of Champions. In 1969, on an icy Sunday morning at the Lancaster Grand Prix racetrack, snowmobile racer Claude Hebert, driving a 634 motor ski, got into a first turn skirmish with a Nordic cat rider and delivered to the snowmobile racing world the first real glimpse of the element of danger to this new sport. He'll always be remembered as the guy who cut off a telephone pole.
You know, I never saw a pole because I thought I could use the berm and get around. My three-cornered files didn't hold. So I was going up to the berm, and then I see all these kids and people behind the fence. I thought, oh my God, that's where I'm going. Next thing I knew, when I came to, I was paralyzed. I was blind, and I thought, what in the hell happened? Somebody grabbed my foot, and I could feel it. I said, shit, I'm not paralyzed. So I was wedged between the snowbank and the fence. They pulled me out of there. I was still blind. I turned my helmet around. I still didn't know what happened. The pole was on the track, and my motor ski's upside down on the fence. What? Well, I never saw the pole. That was the most amazing thing ever. And then they got my sled out, and I realized, hell, my brake cable was broke. I couldn't slow down anyway. So that was my day. It's a pleasure to be here and to accept this on behalf of the telephone pole and lights.
They took him to the hospital, checked him out, he came back that same day and started racing again.
I didn't go very fast, but my brake cable was still broken.
Claude is still promoting though. Claude has been instrumental in helping us find these different racers and everything the last couple of years on the internet. He's all the time looking for people, and he's been very helpful. So Claude's always doing something for us.
Hey.
I want to thank Rick Simula for the work he's done in developing the site. And that has brought together so many of the races and names from yesterday that we had all long forgotten. And all of a sudden, the stories they come out with and the memory these guys have is just unbelievable. I think Bruce Bourgeois.
Don't ask them what they had for breakfast.
Bruce Bourgeois can tell you every race he was ever in and what position he was in. You know, who remembers that stuff? So, thank you, and for Paul Crane and you, Ed, for all the work you've done in that. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yeah, good times right there. That was such a great induction.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was.
Now, what's your memory of that, Claude? Do you have good memories of that induction that day that you were there in 2019?
Absolutely, because it just brought back to mind things of the past and the fact that there was the other inductees there and future inductees to be there that I hadn't seen for years. And it's great to see these guys.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
That
become
was the
quite a
same year
community.
we inducted Bobby Fortin
Yes.
and Ron Hall
Yeah.
and Herb Yancey.
He was a diver.
Yeah, you were with a pretty hefty bunch there, Claude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't put myself in that group. I'll tell you that.
Oh
right now.
well, everybody contributed, and especially in the promotion end of it. I don't think anyone can take a back seat to Claude Hebert in that
That's
regard.
true.
No.
That's
There's some great guys there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's become an amazing community. We talk about that a lot, but it's nice to recognize all these people, but it's also become an incredible community. And, people like Midge and I have made a lot of new friends, and a lot of racers from back in the day have been able to reconnect with people they probably thought they'd never see again. So it's a social experience. There's a second to none. And then just, recognizing these people, there's just so many wins on it on so many levels.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very nice to see you guys continue this, Mike, with your show and the people that you have on, and these guys with these collection of sleds and what the work they've done on them, and just amazing group of people.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, we have a blast doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's caught on. It puts wind in the sails when it catches on and people are enjoying it, and it just motivates you that much more to keep it going and to take it to another level too.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we've got a few comments that have come in. And while we're going through these comments, think of anything maybe we haven't covered that we would have liked to. But let's take some of these comments real quick. Glenn Ford says, "Thanks, Mike, Midge, and Claude for a great show tonight. Appreciate the compliment." Mike Whiteside says, "Great show tonight. Thank you so much, guys." Here we go. I don't know if that's a typo or not, but any stories of the Mercury snot twister, he says. I don't know if that's intentional or if that was a typo, but either way, it's pretty funny. Any stories around that?
Well, we had a race in Lake Placid, New York, and all the factories were there. And Mercury snot twisters were just one trailer away from us. And everybody that night was tuning up their sleds, and Mercury had a sled that they had put, I don't know what kind of engine they had in there, a boat engine or what, but it sounded unreal when those echoes echoed off the hills around Lake Placid. It was just, my 4-cylinder wouldn't even, stand in there with what little noise I made. They really stood out. It was great. I love the smell of two-stroke oil, and I love the sound of these old snowmobiles.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Cool. And,
it lifts the hair right up in the back of your neck, every time.
Yeah, we got a nice compliment from Ben too. He says, "You were so right, Mike. That story Claude tells never gets old." I agree. That cracks me up every time.
Yeah.
There's a story, and then the storyteller, that brings it to life, and that
cracks me up too.
Especially the day it happened, right? And then Brett Harp says, "When I raced, it was a big deal. We didn't have the stuff that kids have nowadays. I was only in the newspaper once. It would be common knowledge now. So many great racers." Yeah. And Max Garage says, "Is there any original video footage we can see featuring Claude's telephone pole incident?" Do you know if that was on film or?
You told me one time there was a video on that, Claude.
Yes, there was a guy from St. Johnsbury who took it on Super 8 or whatever, an 8mm movie camera.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, "I have this whole thing on my camera." He said, "I'll send it to you." And that was the last I ever heard of it.
Wow. I wish we could find that guy. He's probably gone now.
I'd love to see that.
Me too. I would love to get my trembling hands on that to share it on the podcast.
Yeah. That's the holy grail.
Yeah.
A snowmobile film right there.
Yes. The thrills and the spills, the agony of defeat. How does that go?
The thrill,
the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. There we go.
Yeah.
And then Brent Harp says the 340 snow twisters were fast. They ran about as good as the 440. Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they had their year. It was an excellent racing.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes.
They went out with a bang.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, any final thoughts before we close? Anything we haven't covered that you would have liked to, or we're hoping to?
It's everything else we've sort of highlighted everything that I wanted to go over.
That photo that shows Claude on the motor ski, I think, what did you say it was at Lewiston with the pizza cutters?
Oh, this one.
I think Dave
Scarborough
Picard
Downs.
is right behind you.
Who?
That's Dave Picard.
No, it isn't. No, no. I've got his name on file, but
I
not.
thought that was Dave.
No,
No.
that was real racing, trying to just get around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got you. See, you get your feet on the ground there, trying to steer with your feet a little bit.
Yeah,
Right.
that's like they did dirt tracking with motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have much traction on my foot though.
No.
Wow.
No.
Crazy. Well, cool.
Yeah.
So I guess to wind this down. Any closing thoughts, Claude?
No, I've enjoyed every moment of it, you guys. It's just great to share these memories with somebody that enjoys listening to them.
When Claude was here a couple of years ago, he took me out to lunch too, and thank you for that, Claude. We had fun.
I'll never forget it, Midge.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we've got a few last comments here. Oh, here we go. Super 8 projectors are hard to find. My folks have one, but the bulbs are impossible to find. Hats off to Claude in big capital letters for all the personal history. He'd like you to come back again soon, and we would like that too.
Thank you.
Definitely. And Brett Harp says, "Great show, guys. Never knew about you guys. Brings back great memories." Well, I'm glad you found us because this is the community. This is the place where we hang out and talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that I'd spoken to you about, Midge, and I've always wanted to see in the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame is Brad Hewling. Brad,
we've tried.
I know. When I've tried and I've gone to his shop and I've talked to him about it, he's from Pennsylvania. He's about as good a racer as comes down the pike.
The best.
Yeah.
Top
And
2%.
he's in the Wisconsin Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And he told me there are so many obligations. He said, I just can't spread myself any thinner.
Yeah.
And he said, too many obligations. And I've invited him multiple times. And I know that Bruce Bourvard had reached out to him and had no comment back.
But
I know
it'd be great to get him in here because he does deserve that.
Yes, he does. And
anything.
This past week in the Eastern and the Wisconsin Hall of Fame, they had the hot laps of the top drivers. Yeah. And he was racing one of his sleds.
Yeah.
The guy was fantastic.
I think we're going to have Tim Bender next year.
Yeah.
I think Tim's going to be inducted.
Good.
Yeah.
And speaking of Brad Hewlings, if anyone has contact with him, we would love nothing better than to bring him on here one night to tell stories with us and visit with us. He can do that right from his home.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to travel anywhere or any of these logistical, situations that could be a challenge for him. So if anyone has contact with him, maybe ask him about that and put him in touch with us. We'd love to bring him on one night to share some stories and visit with him.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
And
the Midnight Blue Express.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Midge, any closing thoughts before we go?
Oh, just on cloud 9, Mike.
Yes, this is one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, one more comment. I hate to miss them. A fantastic show this evening, gentlemen. Look forward to more fun-filled episodes in the future. Also, our friend Ben from Vintage Mini Bike Lovers. We do the Mini Bike podcast together second Sunday of every month, 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here where you're viewing this. So if you like those old mini bikes from the 60s and 70s, you do not want to miss that. Just circle back around second Sunday of the month, 8 o'clock, right here where we're doing this. And with that, we do have to shut it down. It's kind of like a Cinderella story where at 12 o'clock, it turns into a pumpkin. Once we hit the 2-hour mark, it turns into a pumpkin. Not literally, but we get the plug pulled on us. So with that, I do have to close it down because we're just a few minutes away. But
Well-
yeah, thank you for everybody, to Claude, to Midge, to the viewers. It's been a wonderful episode. This has been a great visit. I can't believe how fast 2 hours went by.
Thanks
Yeah.
for all the great comments.
Nice to see you, Claude.
Same here, guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
great to see you.
Thank you
All
for
right,
doing
everybody.
this, Mike.
Oh, my pleasure. Have a good one, everybody. Till next
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Okay.